For the last 100 years, we've had a centralized generation, transmission, and distribution systems. So we've had large power plants, coal plants, natural gas, nuclear, generating large amounts of energy, sending them along transmission lines, and then dropping down the voltage to a distribution network that brings it to our home. As we move to solar and wind, renewable energy resources, what we want to be able to do is two things. We want to be able to accommodate the natural variability of solar and wind, and at the same time in the distribution network, when we've added solar panels, we want to accommodate two-way power flows. One of the most cost-effective means to do that is to manage the resources behind the meter. That could be a smart thermostat, it could be a smart solar PV inverter, it could be an electric vehicle charger or an energy storage device. Manage those in a way that the grid can accommodate more of these variable energy sources. And so a distribution energy management system is software designed to basically coordinate these devices with the electric utility requirements. You know, one of the things that I think is most surprising to people is how quickly renewable energy sources are growing. In the United States, even though solar and wind only represent 10% at the national level, in specific states, the growth has been fairly significant. So there's already 10 states in the United States where solar and wind already make up over 20% of the electricity generated. And there are many states where it's now approaching 40%. So the rapid growth in energy and wind has really been driven by price. And so what we're finding now is that building new capacity, new solar plants, new wind resources is actually less expensive than keeping existing coal plants operating. And so the significant takedown in the pricing of renewable energy has taken a lot of people by surprise. For business owners, there's a few drivers, two essential ones really, that have really driven people more into renewable energy as part of their portfolio. The one is a lot of them have made commitments to being carbon neutral by whether it's 2030 or 2050. So they want to ensure that we really stop the growth of changing the chemical composition of the planet and making it warmer. And so there are a lot of large organizations that basically have realized that the utilities may be moving slower than they want to in order to ensure that we protect the future of the planet. A second piece is around cost, because often in many very expensive electricity markets in the United States, it is the cost of renewable energies that is well below what utilities are charging, so there's a fairly significant economic reason. The third reason is around resilience. Oftentimes now we've seen big interruptions of power in California. We've seen hurricanes like Hurricane Sandy or Hurricane Irma have an impact, significant impact in terms of the ability of utilities to respond to those big surprises. And so what people are saying is well, if I put in solar, I put in batteries, I can ensure that my business can operate when the utility may not be well equipped to deal with large natural disasters. One of the companies we work with is Brooklyn Power, which is a solar power reseller in New York City. One of the things they wanted to do is to basically provide solar power to large condo buildings in Manhattan and Brooklyn, and we provided software that allowed them to not only provide the solar power, but also to replace their utility provider and put in a common meter. And because they were now buying electricity at wholesale from Con Edison, they were able to reduce the cost of electricity to the tenants by 25 to 30%. Submetering comes in two flavors. In the one flavor of submetering, what you do is you provide for real-time information to tenants, whether they be apartment dwellers or in an office, and you give them real clarity about how much energy they're using, when they're using it in real time. Unlike utilities where you have to wait 30 days to get that kind of feedback. The other use of submetering is where you do what's called circuit level metering. If you have a large portfolio of real estate, it would be really useful to know, well, how much of that is from heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, how much of that is from lighting, or how much of that is from the elevator. And by breaking down your electricity usage by where it's actually being used, you could decide when it may be beneficial to either upgrade your lighting system, upgrade your ventilation or air conditioning system by providing that clarity in terms of what loads are actually being demanding electricity when it's being demanded, you can make much smarter decisions on how energy is used. The focus of Amzur Energy is on really coordinating distributed energy resources. So that would be solar power, smart thermostats, energy storage devices, and EV chargers to allow us to coordinate with the grid so that we could provide for grid services, both adding to the reliability of the grid as well as resilience, as well as giving an economic incentive for asset owners, someone who owns an energy storage device or solar systems, to basically get additional revenue from having those resources on site and being able to work with their local utility provider to provide for valued services.